District Board of Directors meeting to order for August 12th, 2021. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Speak into the microphone. Denise, can we get a roll call, please? Oh, sorry. Before that, Denise, was the meeting properly notified?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Now can we get a roll call?
Director Walper,
Here.
Director Martinez,
Here.
Director Berman,
Here.
Director Johnston,
Here.
Director Wheeler,
Here.
Vice Chair Shibahara,
Here.
and Chair Rydell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, so on to B, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda or amend?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Been moved and seconded? Okay. All in favor? Raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
All right, on to C, Board of Directors reports, and we had a specific order we were doing these in, right? We start at this end. So Director Walper, I'll pass it to you for your report.
I don't have anything. I'm brand new, Ken.
No worries, I just have to ask.
I'm sure I will be able to join later on.
Absolutely, thank you. Director Berman.
Thank you. We had our pillar meeting. We're back online having pillar meetings. Our strategic pillar is up-to-date buildings and facilities. Mike Ware has some great information to share tonight. He's done some ROI calculations to share with us on some projects I thought would be helpful. Other than that, I'm glad we're all back here in person. Good to see everybody.
Great, thank you. Director Wheeler.
Glad to be here in person. Glad to see the school year is about ready to get fired up. I know the Wheeler family is looking forward to it. Youth football has started. I got a good group of young lads out there playing football when the weather's not 100 degrees. Lots of involved parents, and good to see the kids getting out and being active. As far as the school year goes, I'm just really excited to get things going. Proud of the school district on everything they did leading up to the latest shakeout of the state. I think the involving the community and employees across the board was a wise move, and it was a good plan. I hope and can't wait for us to be able to implement it.
Awesome, thank you. Vice Chair Shibahara.
Thank you. Gosh, I feel like there's a lot going on. Actually, it's great stuff. Did the high school registration this last week, and from what I hear, huge. I mean, there's a lot of students attended and parents, and I appreciate all the staff and all the hard work. I know it's a lot. It feels early, but yeah, it's great. I'm excited. And kids get lockers this year. All kinds of normal stuff. It's starting to feel, at least for our kids, they're getting pretty excited. Just about the locker. They were excited to get locker for high school, so that was neat. I also did have my pillar update or committee meeting this week. A lot of focus this year on Spanish-speaking events and translations, and trying to, I guess, streamline that process more and try and focus on the most important things and making sure that we're getting that out there to all families. So obviously, still a lot more work to do there, and I'm sure we'll get some more updates from Maggie today. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was last time we talked about the idea of kind of like a board workshop or something, and so we talked about it again, and I'd like to propose, and if we think about this, I don't know if this will happen during discussion or afterwards, but like a half a day towards the end of September, like a Saturday morning, focusing on kind of the bond and the taking a look at the results, what we actually proposed, and the results. Unfortunately, maybe have an update on current maintenance operations status, and then do like a tour as a board of the facilities. Again, kind of reassess where we're at, come back, maybe have some lunch, and then follow up with like next steps and kind of just see where we go from there. But that's my proposal, and think about it, see if that might work.
Great, thank you. Director Martinez.
No major reports. I really like the idea about the work session for the board, but I would suggest a different week. End of September, I'm going to be out of town.
Okay, send me some dates. Figure some dates.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Director Johnston.
Like everybody said, glad to be here in person. I just want to acknowledge with everything that's happened in this state, we're all under, thinking about this and it's on the top of our minds. So making sure that we acknowledge that. Started fall ball for the first time since I've been in Estacada, 80 kids, grades 3 through 8, which is great. And I'm excited. I saw the room being moved, and it looks, doesn't look the same over there that it does over there. So the Rufus Room, I believe that's the name. But I'm excited to hear about all those transitions that are happening. So.
Awesome, thank you. I don't have a ton to add. Was really excited to see the portable rejuvenated. So I think it is a great reminder for us as we move forward to look at all options for stuff like that. Because I think we'd all agreed it was time to go. And then as it turns out, I'm glad it didn't, because it saved us a ton of money and gave us an opportunity to repurpose it. So great job to facilities and everybody that worked on that. I will just tack on top of youth football did start on Monday. 89 kids, which is a solid number for youth football. I have the opportunity to work with a lot of associations across the state, and we're one of the very few that our numbers are holding strong and really gone up. The total number didn't go up, but based on what was returning, the numbers went up because we moved on a couple big classes over the last couple of years. So very excited about that, and again, want to commend the district on the communication, being forward-thinking, forward-moving, and trying to be as proactive as we can to get families prepared for what we feel school will look like when it starts, knowing that can be a moving target, as opposed to many other districts, large districts to be unnamed, that have just waited and waited and waited, and that does not help families. So I'm very excited that our district took the direction to be more informative as opposed to waiting until the last minute. So that's all I have.
Chair Rydell, can I have
Yes.
one more moment?
Yes, you may.
I forgot that I had, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, maybe 3 weeks ago, made it to a city council meeting, and I was speaking on behalf of a committee that Superintendent Carpenter and I were on, was the CHAD, Committee on Housing, Affordability, and Diversity for the greater Estacada area, really, and just providing some recommendations and some guidance to the city council for affordable housing opportunities. As far as that goes, it's pretty well commenced as far as the formal CHAD group, and we will now go into a more formal committee that is more or less state mandated by the comprehensive plan. Not to get too much in the weeds, but it has to do with the city charter and everything involved with how zoning and housing affordability relates to the city of Estacada. Long story short, it's on a lot of people's minds as we see the push north in Estacada and the hills around us of residential houses going in, single-family residential houses, that there's not more diversity as far as multifamily, duplexes, townhomes, that kind of stuff. And so another one of the hats I wear is on the planning commission for the city of Estacada, and so I continued to speak at the mic for way more than I should have, but like now. And we kind of led into, and I got somewhat, I wouldn't say bombarded, but there was a lot of questions regarding what's the school district doing and how are we handling capacity? How does that relate to the affordability of housing? And then it just kind of snowballed from there of transportation and all of these things that are on all of our minds. So just a heads up that I wouldn't be surprised if the city council and/or planning commission, I know they're going to commence a joint meeting, and that something will come out of that back to the school district of what is your actual capacity? How can we, further steer our subdivisions and housing to help, and just the big picture. So I just wanted to get that out there. There was an email that went out by one of the planning commission members last night talking about the school district again, and the B word was floated, being bond. And so I don't know, to piggyback on what you're talking about, I think it's time again to start rekindling those conversations. And that's it. Sorry. There's a lot.
There's not a time limit on board of directors reports, so you're good.
You're safe.
But we're only 10 minutes into this. We're doing all right.
Yet. There's no limit yet. So, thank you, Director Wheeler. All right, so on to item D, strategic plan pillar reports. And first up is engaged family and communities with Maggie Kelly. Come on up, Maggie.
Great to join you here this evening. My presentation tonight should be pretty short because I'm sure in September I will have a lot to report on. So in August, the first thing I wanted to highlight, as some of you mentioned, was the committee meetings and the surveys we did to build our back to school plan. Even though we were overrode at some point on some aspects of the plan, I still am really proud, and I think the district can be proud of the process that was laid forth. We collected feedback from more than 300 individuals throughout our community and our staff in a really pretty short time frame. And that impacted around 20% of our back to school plan. So 20% of the document that we presented was changed as a result of the committee meetings and the surveys that we held. So I think that's clear evidence of the fact that we are listening to our community and integrating a lot of different viewpoints. Sometimes there are obstacles that are put in place that prohibit us from doing that fully, but I'm still proud of the process that went on, and I hope our community feels heard throughout that. And we'll just continue to host open sessions like that where we collect and utilize input as we move forward. So we rolled out our back to school document, and we did a lot of work on updating English and Spanish web pages. We updated our registration page, our back to school page. We're updating our transportation page and several other just key pages, making sure they're available in both English and Spanish, and then having that back to school document available in Spanish as well. We also expanded our Super 60 Second communication to Spanish, also starting, I believe it was last week. It was either this week or last week. And we did get several dozen views from that, so I am excited about that. We found that text message is the way that we get the most, so we just send a quick link to our Spanish-speaking families with the Spanish voiceover of the Super 60 Seconds. So I'm excited about that and excited to dig deeper into the data. I also, while I'm on the topic of videos, just want to plug, we are expanding our video communication because they're just so dang popular. We really see people wanting to connect with us at home, and as we center student communication, we're rolling out a student video series soon that I'm very excited about. We'll have the first video coming out the day before the first day of school, and we did a preview at the end of the year, and that's our 4th most watched video of all time, so I think it should be successful. Our podcast views continue to be pretty stable, and our operations with Mike Ware, those videos have really gotten a pretty wide audience, so I'm excited for that opportunity to continue to educate our community on our facility needs. And I'm excited as well, Director Weinard will be joining us soon with a monthly finance update, and I think that'll be a good opportunity to give our community some education on our finances and just be really transparent about that. So very excited there. We also completed our Standards of Excellence branding. This is something that we are rolling out to staff, just setting some expectations on things like respect and some of our core values. And we really wanted to brand this and build a campaign around this because we know what gets recognized gets done. So we have a calendar for it, we have posters, and we're excited to have this rolled out to staff really consistently at the beginning of the year. And by the way, the Standards of Excellence Committee did a really excellent job. Some additional summer work, as I talked about previously, always working to expand access to SMORE and Parent Square communication. I have seen a jump over the summer, especially with our Spanish-speaking community. As I said, we've also seen several dozen Spanish-speaking families get the Parent Square app that I hadn't noticed before, so that's really exciting. And some English-speaking families too. We're just going to continue to drive that at the beginning of the year, that here are those couple of apps that it really helps if you download. And I think that's going pretty well. Website updates are continuing, and as I said, we're really highlighting those ones that we can update in Spanish and provide that translation for as well. And then back to school pillar work. It's almost that time to launch, and we're really excited to start engaging families again. We've been engaging them over the summer, but they needed a little bit of a break. So we're excited to start doing surveys. And I think on that events list that was provided, you can already see one, the parent series that Principal Hargrave hosts is picking up again in September. So some of those series should start to pick up again. And then our back to school newspaper edition, that's where you get supply lists and school times and all that good stuff, is finalized. I believe it went out with the newspaper today. It was either this Thursday or next Thursday. So check your mailbox if you get the newspaper. You should see our back to school edition. Has letters from the principals, and I always think it's a good kickoff to the start of the year. That's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I have one.
Yeah, go for it.
It seems like every time, first of the year, we have parents, maybe split households or grandparents that want to be added onto the communication roles. Is there a place where we can direct them to get added on to text messaging, emailing, that kind of stuff?
They should always be calling their building secretary, and then their building secretary can
Okay.
just pop them in Parent Square really quick and easy.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? All
All
right,
right.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Maggie. All right, next up, building and facilities report. Mr. Mike Ware, welcome, sir.
Warm.
All right, good evening. For your report tonight, we're going to be reviewing a lot of the summer work that our operations department has been focused on, not only in facility maintenance, custodial, and grounds, but our summer nutrition program, our IT department, and transportation department. Facility maintenance, custodial, and grounds. As I mentioned last month, I showed you our Gantt chart of our tracking of summer work. Since we've started that process of that work, we're 83.61% complete. When we started it, we had roughly 51, 52 summer projects. It bumped up to about 74. And again, this is all internal work that we're tracking here. These things consist of, as you see, a demo in a room that's related to our capacity issues at Riverbend Elementary. This was a room that had a staff member utilize an office, but we realized we needed that full classroom space, so we demoed that room, cleaning our AHUs, our filters, a good picture of our floors when they're finished and done. But that's a routine or typical type of work that we do over the summer, is those floors, those painting, updating our lighting, moving a lot of equipment and furniture based off what our building principals and our employees need from us. And so our team in the facility maintenance and really maintaining our 74 acres, soon to be 94 with those 20 acres that we have to do, we have to maintain as well, are really just doing a great job making sure that schools are safe, warm, and dry, are safe and ready to go for our students in the fall. So very excited about their progress. In the last few weeks, in August here, we'll be focusing on preventative maintenance for our HVAC care, which will take about 2 weeks to get through all of our HVACs, pending, if we find any issues or things that we need to repair during that process. IT, we finally finished up our access point installation. If you look above, right above there, that's what that thing does, and it's pretty nice. It actually runs a really high Wi-Fi rate. That is a very exciting project. If you recall, it's part of E-rate, so we get reimbursed through the feds on this project. But ultimately ended early, was successful, no major issues. And then again, like the summer work on facility side, our IT department 78% complete on their projects. And the majority of the projects were device cleanup and getting ready, and then our Zoom room cleanup. If you've been in our classrooms over the last year or so, you probably noticed in our secondaries a lot of wiring, a lot of cabling from our Zoom rooms, and that was and it had an impact in our teaching and learning. So we wanted to go through and make sure that it's cleaned up, out of the way, out of mind, so our teachers can teach and our students can learn. Summer food program, breakfast, total to date, we served about 488 meals, which is about typical throughout each summer. Breakfasts are not as popular. Lunch, although we served about just over 4,000 meals. And this was taken from last week, so the numbers from this week, this was the last week of our summer food program, probably gone up a little bit, but we're very excited about that. Successful program, obviously, we do it every year, and it's a big need and has a big impact on our community and our students. Transportation, very vital in the summer. We run, as you can see, a number of programs through June to the mid-August, where there's credit recovery, different foster farm type camps, outdoor reader camps, Boys and Girls Council, Jumpstart Program, extended school year. Students who attend these programs need transportation, and we're able to provide it. To date, we actually served about 182 students to be able to get to these programs, participate, engage with their fellow peers, and then also get some great quality work out of there. So very excited, very, very happy with that. We're also in the process of recruiting. Unfortunately, we've lost a couple of employees over the last couple of weeks, and so we are doing some different efforts, kind of what Maggie Kelly talked about on our communication process. YouTube is becoming quite the big popular broadcasting system for the Estacada School District. So we're exploring ideas of doing more of info commercials on hiring, and I came to Maggie looking at how we can do that and highlight a bus driver to see if we can make an impact there and get more recruitment out there. So we're exploring that as well. So if you know any bus drivers, please send them our way. North Complex, moving right along. The grass is not growing as quickly as we like. The weather has been pretty tough on us, but we are watering it, and we realize that there's just going to take some time before that ground cultivates. We are ready to send out the RFP for the gravel road, working with Christina and our lawyers to approve that RFP, and then we'll go out. The anticipated timeline to start would be this fall. And again, this is including engineering and really just prepping that ground and that area for roadway, and then eventually the goal would be to go in and pave it and stripe it. Timeline to be determined. The design and planning for concession and restrooms, we actually got our first concept design, and we are reviewing it now. I sent it to Superintendent Carpenter, and hopefully that we'll be able to get to take a look at it, get some feedback, see what we want to do. But so far, it looks like a pretty nice design. I think there could be some things that we want to change, but very excited that we're starting that process. And then again, hopefully concurrently have our North Complex area ready to go in the 2022 year, hopefully. So. Portable updates that you all referenced. Here's some pictures that we've been doing, and you'll see some transition. We prepped the land of the foundation over at Rivermill. We used a contractor that's local, and it just did a wonderful job. Did it very quickly, very efficiently, was able to save some money, and we're very, very pleased with how this turned out. It took a couple of weeks, but you can see the turnout of the portable. And now we go to the roof of this room. This is what it looked like before. As we mentioned, we've done a number of different upgrades and changes to this building, and it looks very nice. And the inside looks really nice as well, suitable for teaching and learning, to be honest. So this unit has been moved. It moved over this week, which is pretty cool. We got some great video shots of it, and pretty interesting to see what machines can do these days. Right now, it's sitting on some cinder blocks, getting ready to be anchored down, and then we're going to be working on ADA access and then securing power and internet to this unit. So, like mentioned earlier, we did save a good amount of money for the district. A brand new portable, as you all know, is close to that $200,000 range. We were able to renovate and move this unit for roughly about $43,000. So big savings to our district. There's still some more work to be done with the power, but it's not a significant cost. And so a win for the district and bank account.
Is that going to be one classroom or two?
That's 2 classrooms. And I'll talk really briefly on the other ones. We're still waiting on the classroom one. That's supposed to schedule to be here mid-September. That's timeline's a little loose right now. We're not too sure because it's being built brand new. The office portable for the district office is scheduled to be here on 9/7. We're prepping the land and getting the power and the water all set up starting next week. So very excited for that to be moving forward. A little delayed in that project, but we're still doing okay.
So we ended up with 3 portables?
We have 2 classroom portals that have 2 classrooms in it, so 4 classrooms altogether, and then an office portable. And again, the why behind that is the capacity concerns that we have at Rivermill, as well as other staff taking up other schools.
And will that other portable be near the other one at Rivermill?
Right next to it.
Right next
Yep,
to
that
it.
pad, we made that pad big enough for future development if we ever wanted to do whatever we wanted to do with that area. But we made it big enough to put both there. They're facing each other, so there can be, obviously it's safe. And then we're going to be talking about fencing once they're all in. And then finally, upcoming projects. We're working with a vendor on installing a scoreboard for co-curricular activities out in our JV, soccer and football, and also track field. We're very excited because it's a big need. And one of the whys behind this is being able to limit the use of our varsity field that we know gets used a lot during the fall, allowing our JV, our younger players, our youth sports, our track utilize this space that's over here in the practice field, have games and different activities, and have some niceness to it, if you will, with a scoreboard. So we're in the process. A lot of these things that I'm going to talk about here is there's some delay in material or delay in the product. Scoreboard, we don't have a timeline for delivery, although I'm pushing them every day and emailing them quite a bit saying, come on, we need to have it out here before the season starts. So we're giving it a try. ADA access to the playground and ADA swing. So we realize there's a need for an ADA swing at our Clackamas River. However, there's also a challenge of getting access to that swing because of the bark chip. So we're exploring options to be able to do that. We will buy the swing, but how we get students or whomever is using those swings is going to be a little bit different than what we initially planned. But again, an upgrade and an access to our schools. We're updating flooring at CRE, Clackamas River Elementary, as well as EMS, the middle school. We are going with polished concrete rather. Right now we're in the beginning stages of it, but we anticipate having this done and plan to have it done before the school year starts because students need to be in the classroom. Upgrading some weight room equipment for safety-related reasons. We know that this is an important piece of our students' activities and education for athletes as well as just general students. And some of our equipment is a bit dated, so we realize that this is a much-needed need. So we're addressing some safety concerns, some functionality concerns in the weight room. We're adding a washer and dryer to River Mill. That may be minimal, but it's important because of efficiencies. Our River Mill custodian doesn't need to walk over to the high school to do laundry anymore, so that will be actually a good time saver. We're going out to bid to get painting and some glass. This is window, but mainly glass updates at our high school, and this is primarily behind where it's very sun-faded. Those glasses are the original windows from the construction, not very energy efficient, and doesn't keep that cool air in and hot air out. So we're out to bid for that. We're getting ready to do our RFP for seismic grant, that seismic upgrade rather at River Mill. That will be going out in the next few months, hopefully to pick up an architect, an engineer, and then going out to construction next summer. And then finally, we're going to be finishing our EHS gym doors. If you recall, when you walk into the Commons, you see the 2 bay doors with windows. On the opposite side, we have 1 bay door. We needed to finish the 2nd bay door, so all 4 doors have windows and are accessible and can see into the gym. Any questions? As I'm sweating.
Done. Look at that. I do have a couple questions. So concessions, restroom, as we were looking at plans, I'd like to take a peek at those if I could. As we're finalizing that, that'd be super. The new classroom portable arriving after school starts, so this is probably a question for you, but I'd like to hear our plans as far as capacity and stuff.
Yeah.
Knowing that won't be here
that's
before.
my report.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then flooring at Estacada Middle School, I have faith that it's not the flooring we just put in there a couple years ago that we're replacing.
No, it's not. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'll be
Just
more
wanna-
specific.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, that flooring is in great condition. And it's the same crew that's doing it. We have a carpet in some of the classrooms, and it's duct taped all over from us cutting it because it's popping up, and just not a clean look. So, yeah.
I assumed, but I just had to ask.
Yeah.
So, that's all I had. Any other questions for Mike?
Yeah, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
And next up, Finance and Accountability Report. Ms. Christina, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Rydell. Good evening. I am going to give you an update on our June 30th financials for our 2020-21 fiscal year. I'm going to start off by going through the revenue. You can see here that we're projected to end the year. This is still a projected number because we're just still finishing out the year, recognizing the things, and our auditors will be coming at the end of September, and that's when we will be getting our final numbers. But at this time, we're projected to have $35.2 million. I do want to point out that our budget, or I'm sorry, that's $39.2 million. I got to get my glasses on. $39.2 million. We were budgeted $34.9 million, so our revenue was $4.3 million higher. And we kind of talked about that in the past, but just going over. And that was because our local property taxes came in higher than what we budgeted. Our state school fund came in higher than what we budgeted. So we're ending the year promising, and a lot of that is because of our enrollment, that we were able to stay in the positive here as a district, as well as the enrollment from our charter school. Any questions on revenue? So keep this 4.3 million in mind, because I will be bringing it back to us. The next one I'm going to go through is the expenditures. You can see the expenditures, again, were projected. We just finished paying all invoices that we had this week, so we are finalizing the numbers and preparing for our auditors. But we ended the year with 31.2 million. Our budgeted expenditures were 34.9 million. So we did really well in a year of meeting our expenditures. So that is about 3.7 million under our budget. But I do want to say 2 million of that was our contingency. So really that was only 1.7 million under budget. And then going to the next page, I'm going to be talking about this current year.
Do you have any theories of why we were under budget? I mean, because it seems like you
Yeah.
had a reason why we were, had more revenue, so I was just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a common thing to be under budget expenditures. You want to spend your expenditures, but you always budget your expenditures higher so that you have that room. So that does allow us a little bit of allowance. We did also, at the beginning of the year, we did do some cutting. So that did allow some of the expenditures.
Well, and
savings.
did not being in person and building, did we save some money also in building expenses, or was that just minimal?
It was different spending than what we're used to. We had more contracted services than what we normally do. So it was just different. We had to hire subs and CNAs and just spent things a little differently than what we would normally year.
So really quick, and sorry to go back to revenue, but also part of that revenue boost was CARES Act money that came in. So there was some additional funds that
Yes,
we would have
correct.
never considered from a budgeting standpoint because we weren't anticipating a pandemic. So
That's a great point. We did have, you'll see it on there,
352,000, 370,000.
correct, that we were able to backfill some of our general fund expenditures.
And then again, just from a budgeting, especially from a revenue standpoint, we take what we received the previous years, we make our best guess. So unlike on the private sector where we control all of those numbers, that is a difference on how we budget to that. So again, we budget revenue as low as we can to be prepared, and
Yep.
we budget expenditures as high as we can to be prepared.
Yes.
And so in this scenario, both were to the better of what we budgeted. So we've got a net win on both sides.
Very well said, thank you.
Yep.
And then that brings me here to our 2021-22 budget. I want to jump to the bottom of the page, the beginning fund balance, and I want to show you that our projected when we were building our budget was 4 million. But as you can see from the numbers I just shared you, we're looking more about 6 million for our beginning fund balance. And that, again, is still just a projection, but I just wanted to point that out to you.
And what percentage is that?
Great question, 15%.
15, okay.
Which I did do some research because I've been getting ready for my strategic plan, and that is one of our reserves to build up one of our strategic plans for the financial pillar was to build up the reserves. So we're right at that, so good job.
What's the recommended percentage?
15 was the high point, I don't remember,
10%.
10%.
yes.
So, but again, as a reminder for all those tuning in, the smaller the school district budget, the larger percentage we need to have in reserves. So, a Portland Public can operate with 6% in reserves because their budget is 10 times what ours is. And so that's why we always want to be on the top end, if not a little above that budget, because of the percentage, the raw dollar amounts with a budget of our size are not as large when you look at some of the larger school districts out there.
And we won't be able to be building this kind of reserve every year. This is a unique year for us that we were able to sustain enrollment and we also had the charter schools enrollment, which add to it. So we will not be building on our fund balance every year like this. So this is a good time to take an opportunity and have that reserve.
So I've got a question for you regarding the budget.
Mm-hmm.
You say that we consistently budget high,
On expenditures, correct.
then every year you look good, right?
Well, as we budget lower on revenue, and then we budget higher on expenditures. So ultimately, we have to have a balanced budget, so revenues has to equal expenditures.
Right.
But that's how you do it. You don't want to say that we're projecting to have more revenue than what we're allowed to. And you want to have the room for expenditures because we can't spend if we don't have appropriation from the board to spend. So we have to create that allowance in there just in case an emergency or something unusual comes up, which this is an example of a year that we did have that. So we do our best always in projecting our budget, but it is a common thing to over.
I'm sure we do our best. And
Yeah.
I'm not being negative, but it seems like if you set a budget, you would want your budget to be, equal to your revenue, and then get graded on that, on how it comes in. And then what I'm familiar with in the corporate world is you budget low, and if you come in good, you get a pat on the back, and they want it to be lower again next year.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and one of the challenges is one of the big differences when public money, if we budget low on expenses and we have to go over, we can't. Because the district does not have the authority to spend more than what the approved budget was. So that's the major difference in
So
there.
you don't have an emergency requisition
Not
type
outs-
thing that you
no.
can go after?
No, there isn't. It doesn't, because it's public funds. Once that, and again, we're starting with numbers that are historical numbers, so we don't just make it up and say, well, we think it's going to be this, so we'll pad it by 10%. It's, here's where we anticipate it to be. This is where we think, hopefully that's a little more than we need to, because again, if something crazy happens and we need to spend $1 million more than what we're budgeted for, if we haven't approved the district to spend that, they can't spend it. It can't be done. So
And-
that's why it is very different. And I'm with you, right? Been doing budgets a long time on the private sector. That's one of the biggest differences between these budgets is
Okay.
it still is a very mindful budget, a little high so that we can cover the expenses, not so that we can just spend without the accountability or without doing it appropriately. It is a functionality of, it has to be there for us to be able to write the check if we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then continuing the revenue, we're projecting, our budget was 36.5 million, and we're projecting our revenue to be about 38.6 million at this point, and that partly is, as you can see, where is it? We have interest, we've already started receiving some refunds and miscellaneous, whoa, can't see. So we're projecting the beginning fund balance is the majority of that increase, sorry. And then going to beginning, so I wanted to add, this is the first time I've showed projected on the revenue report, and I'm going to continue showing projections. I just think it's nice for us to try to determine our revenue throughout the whole year. And then this is built based upon the projections. Based upon the projections, our state funding will be about 64% of our budget. And then for our expenditures, you can see here, our budget is 36.5 million. We're very early in the year, so we're projecting to spend right now 32.4 million of that. We have about, you'll see down in the general funds by objects, the 300s, the 400s, and the 500s. That's kind of our movement for our budget. That's where we're allowed to spend our supplies, our services. The rest of the lines are kind of fixed cost, contracted cost. Our salaries are associated, and things that our every year contract our cost. So that's about, we're projected to spend currently 100% of that. But that, again, is a very early projections, trying to say that, yes, we will spend majority of our budget. And then you can see here, our salaries are 37% of our budget, our associated payroll costs are 22%, and our purchase services, which are all our fixed costs, are about 34% of our budget. And that's where we do contract our services, hire our subs, pay our utilities out of the 300s.
You have to bear with me because I'm
No.
still learning. What is our budget year from when to when?
Great question. July 1st to June 30th. So we just started a new year on your first day.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I got one on the revenue side, if that's all right.
Yep.
Can we go back to, it looks like it's a June 30th report, general fund revenue summary. Where does I see on there SLC growth on 3101, a potential growth of $300,000. And that's just a placeholder because we don't know what's going to happen there. But we have that agreement worked out where they can hit a certain threshold and everything above that, it's in our favor financially, right?
Right, and all of that is incorporated in the 3101. So at this point, at the end of the year, I just incorporated it all in the 3101.
So the 3101 is entirely, well, the
Well, it's
second,
partly our state school fund and the portion that we also did receive from SLC's growth. I didn't separate it out.
okay. The other thing that you mentioned when you first started was property taxes came in higher than anticipated, which obviously bumped up the state school fund. What is the lag on that? Because as homeowners and property owners, we pay in November, that money gets dumped into the state coffers, and then that's used to predict the state budget for, last November predicts this year's budget, is that correct?
Correct. So once you do your payment, so we start receiving our big tax payments coming in November, October, end of October, November, December is when we really start getting and projecting. So in December, I'm going to project what our property taxes will be for next year, and that's what we will be using in our state school fund formula.
Okay.
So Nick projected what our property taxes would be, and that's what is currently being funded in our state school fund.
So as those property taxes generally go up, hopefully across the state, that state school fund, does it have the potential to fluctuate, or is it when Kate Brown comes out and says, we're going to fund it at 8.8 million or 8.8 billion or whatever that number is, does it become affected after that? Or is it an educated guess at that point on what the property taxes are coming in at? You kind of follow me?
Yeah, so property taxes, when we budget it based upon historical and what the growth is projected to be, and we do a lot of work with the city and the counties on that. And then, so we have a few times that impacts the state school fund. One is in December, and then one I can update last year's, like what I actually received in that same December time. So come December, I'm doing two estimates. I'm going to estimate based what we're finishing the year on, and then what we're going to start the year with. And that both those numbers will impact our state school fund, one for our current year and one for our next year.
Okay. Is that property tax number, is that one of the biggest things that affects the state school fund or the state budget as a whole, or is it?
There's huge formula. That is a portion of it. It is not the major. There's lots of pieces of it. The biggest is enrollment, of course, but we can maybe one time I could go and try to simplify the state school formula.
Historically, how good is that estimate?
The state school fund formula?
Yeah.
It could be, so that's pretty common. And like, it would only change in December. The one fluctuation that we have is our May adjustment. So in May, they go and they do adjustment and they pay us what they owed us, or they finish out the previous year based upon all the actual numbers. So that's the number that's hard to determine, but that's a minimal amount. But the actual state school fund, if I'm going in and doing my property taxes, I can go in and do a formula to pretty much calculate what I can work out through the year. It will be adjusted once property taxes come in, because they don't go in and update the factors of the state school formula every month. They just do that periodically.
Twice a year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Christina. Appreciate it. Item E, Superintendent's Report.
All right, thank you very much, Executive Board of Directors, and I appreciate your great questions and input tonight. I'm really appreciative of your ability to just be the watchword of our school district, and I'm impressed with the work that you're all doing. Our community, as we well know, has been in frequent communication with me and the Board of Directors. I did a search today, this afternoon, to count how many local emails that we've received in regards to face masks and the governor's mandate. And as of 3:30 this afternoon, I have received 761 local emails on both sides of that perspective. And I think that tells us two things. One, the Estacada School District has established itself as a place for people to feel safe to communicate their opinions. I also believe that it shows that we've developed a relationship with our families and our community, and we have demonstrated that we've been able to make adjustments based on voice and feedback. And so I'm very pleased with that, and I want to thank, on behalf of the board, the district, and I want to thank those community members who did take the time to reach out to either a board member or myself and share their opinions. And I want to let our constituents know that we do hear you. And we listened and we worked very hard to be timely and personal in our responses back. The Estacada School District also believes that we should have local control inside our own decisions. We want our decisions to reflect that of the Estacada School District, because we well know that decisions made in Portland, in Eugene, or La Grande may be different than what decisions need to be made for the Estacada School District. And so we are with you in our alignment with the desire for local control. I'm very proud of the Estacada School District because we, prior to the governor's announcement, were able to present our plan to the community. This was a good plan and still is a good plan that represents our community, our families, our employees, and all of whom approved of the plan that we shared with our community. That being said, the state of Oregon's rules and laws, even though some may agree or disagree with them, our school board of directors and I are bound by policy, local, state, and federal laws. And there are consequences to not following those laws. Our community members need to be able to rely on and trust on their elected officials and their superintendent to follow faithfully those laws. And so even though we may or may not agree with certain laws and or rules or mandates, it is our responsibility to make sure that all laws are executed inside our school district. And so that being said, I just want to say thank you to our community for their communication. We have heard you. We know that these are very emotional times inside our community regarding how schools are responding to the COVID virus. I just want to state from the superintendent's perspective that our school district, including this board, are most excited about welcoming all children back on campus this year. And if that means that we have to endure face coverings for just a little bit longer, that is a risk that we are willing to take to welcome our most vulnerable kids, kids who have suffered tremendous educational losses over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. And we are very, very excited to welcome and bring back that culture that we have missed so greatly over the last 12 months. A couple of other things I'd like to talk about very quickly. Executive Director Mike Ware and a few board members celebrated the portable being moved. That is tremendous progress. I'm so proud of our return on investment and how we as a district saved money. It's also important to note that that portable does have sentimental value to this school district. As one of the greatest volunteers that the Estacada School District has had in the last few decades, and I'm referring to Rufus Bragg, it's neat to be able to resurrect that building where he touched the lives of so many kids, particularly high school kids, and put that into a space that can once again be alive, vibrant, and serve kids. I appreciated Director Johnson referring to it as the Rufus Room. Unfortunately, we can't officially call it that without board designation. And so once this thing comes alive and is able to start serving kids on a daily basis, I would like to come back to the board of directors to see if we can maybe make a special name for that. I didn't think I'd get emotional about that. Thank you. One of the things that Chair Rydell, I believe, asked is the capacity issues and how that's looking in terms of the multiple portables that are coming in. And it does appear that one or two of those classrooms in the Rufus portables will be inhabited by either students and or adults. We're still making a determination of how best to serve our kids at Rivermill. We talked about there are special education services that inhabit the inside of that area. We're a little bit reluctant at this point to move them outside of the building because we don't necessarily want to send specific kids to different sections of that location. However, at the same time, we need to consider the safety and bathrooming environments of putting classes out there. And so both of those classrooms will be full of something, either services and or kids. We do not intend that the other two classrooms coming in the middle of September will be utilized this year. But again, we made that decision being future focused, and it's only a matter of months, if not years, right, that those will be put to use. And so I'm pleased that we were able to purchase these two portables, one being ones we had, the other being one that we purchased. That was at no cost to the general fund. These were ESSER fund dollars that was able to support this, and it will allow us to facilitate growth until we can get our community to invest in a larger space for our growing community. One thing I wanted to celebrate, especially for school board members who have been on the school board for several years, just this last month, we made our last loan payment for the school buses that we have been on loan for the last 7 or so years, maybe more than that. But so we can proudly say at this point, minus the bond from 2000, that the Estacada School District is debt-free. And that's where we want to be, where we can purchase things outright, be fiscally responsible with the money that we do have, and not take out any fiduciary loans to support the needs of our kids. And so that's a win for our school district, and we worked very hard to become debt-free. And I just wanted to commend us, as particularly the board leadership, for their work in becoming debt-free. Last but not least, and also serious, Director Ware referred to our transportation department and the fact that we are struggling to hire and fill open positions. And within the last couple of weeks, we have lost 3 bus drivers to competitors. One of the problems that exists, and this is a great problem that was due to our success, but is now problematic because of our success. So if you'll remember, in the pandemic last year, we kept our buses rolling. They were heroic. They delivered food. They were our Amazon next day delivery service. They were truly heroic in making sure all kids, when our schools were closed, had access. Most other school districts released or laid off their transportation fleet. And so we were praised for being able to retain our transportation fleet, and other school districts were the opposite of praised for not making that decision. However, because schools started to open in the springtime and schools are getting ready to open again, other school districts and private transportation companies have spiked their wages and or created signing bonuses to poach and get back the workforce that they had laid off. The problem for us is we're now getting beat by our neighbor competitors as we're trying to fill bus spots. And so at some point, I'm probably going to need to talk to both Chair Rydell and Vice Chair Shibahara about maybe an interim step that we may want to look at so that we can get back into the competitive game of trying to quickly recruit, because we're at this point a few quarantines away from having some logistical problems of operating school. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that, so that we can all be a part of the problem-solving process when it comes to that. I think that's the superintendent's report for this month, and I'm happy to ask or answer or address any questions from the board.
Any questions?
All right, and with regard to the transportation department and some of these former drivers taking jobs with private school bus companies, how does that work with the union? Are those still union positions with a private company?
No,
So it's
they're
just
not.
a contract and it's their own thing. So it would create difficulties then for us to go create signing bonuses or a back to year bump or something because of the union, right?
Not necessarily because of the union. The union will always entertain a conversation that requires a change and or improvement in wages. And so we're really nothing short of just saying, hey, we'd like to talk about this. And I imagine that they would want to talk about wages. What's different about third-party or private transportation is they aren't required to pay PERS and they aren't required to pay health benefits. And so bus drivers who make the decision to move to these private corporations are doing so by taking a much higher hourly wage because the benefits packages aren't there. For a school district, we have a great retirement and we have a great benefits package. And in lieu of that, our hourly rate is considerably less. And so employees need to make a decision of what path they want to go to. Unfortunately, and I'll just tell you straight up, Oregon City's at $22 an hour, North Clackamas is at $21 an hour, Estacade is at $17. And so it's something that we need to probably address sooner than later.
But those other two those are first student? That's
yeah.
Delivering the kids to Clackamas?
No, so Clackamas and Oregon City own their own transportation fleets. However, our neighbors, which is Sandy primarily, Molalla, Gladstone, and I think Westland, Wilsonville are all first student, or I think now it's Student Transportation of America or something like that. And so half of our neighbors are private and the other half of our neighbors are just paying a more competitive wage. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
Thank you.
I've got a question here. Have you had a chance to digest, I read an article that our governor had decided that for the next 5 years, our kids don't need to demonstrate any type of proficiency. Is that real? Is it happening? Have you got to digest it? What does it mean for us?
Yeah, I appreciate that. That is true. The 5 years, you have to count the last two as part of that 5 year. But ultimately, and for our folks watching, just to clarify, what Director Berman so eloquently and greatly asked is what's going on is all students take the Smarter Balance Achievement Test. all students in the state of Oregon are required to take that test, and I believe at some point it was about 40 or 50% of the 50 United States also take the Smarter Balance test. If a child, particularly in high school, the 11th grade year, were to fail either the math, reading, or writing portion of, or language arts portion of that test, it's the responsibility of the district to conduct what's called a work sample and/or skills assessment to guarantee that by the time the child graduated, we have validated or verified that they met those thresholds. In the last 2 years of COVID, the governor waived the essential skills portion of that two-pronged thing. So yes, school districts graduated kids who had not passed the test and never demonstrated that they had mastered those skills. And so what the governor did relatively quietly was extended that for 3 more additional years. And there's some reasons behind that. I'm not defending that decision, but primarily, and this goes for our policy as well, if we're to make a credits change in graduation, or if we're to make a change at the high school level that impacts that, we have to wait an amount of time so that that freshman class has the ability to do that. So there is some backing as to why that time is there, is because we have a crop of kids who are coming through that need to stay consistent with those laws and those law changes. To make a long answer even longer, this is where proficiency-based or standards-based grading comes greatly into effect. Because our school district guarantees that all kids are going to pass every single grade level standard in order to pass a class, we are by default already guaranteeing that when a child graduates, regardless of if they pass the test or not, are demonstrating those proficiency skills. And so credit to our teachers, our board, and our, innovative vision to be cutting edge in those standards-based grading, because by default, we're already doing the things that most school districts aren't. So in other school districts, there will be kids this year who fail the test and never demonstrate proficiency. It's a gift. You got to work for it here in Estacada, and we're proud of that.
How long have we been doing the standards-based grading now?
About 10 years, a little over.
And we got pretty much universal buy-in?
That is, I would say I would say that there is a large amount of employee buy-in. We are, I think, tipping the scales of 90 to 95% in favor of it. We'll never have 100%, but we're working towards it. There's a couple people that we're really trying to support.
And Ryan, just as an additional point with that, the elimination of requiring the test score does not and will not change our grading and will not and change what our expectations are to pass the courses.
That's right.
So it is truly not a reduction of the classwork or what is required to pass the class. It is just using the test at the end of the year and using those results to say, we will no longer require additional work if a student doesn't pass this test.
Yep.
And to your point, with standards-based grading, we nullify the vast majority of that.
That's exactly right. And so the question that will come up is, so then why take the test? And one of the cool things about the Estacada School District also is we do grant some credits, some elective credit, for those kids who are able to demonstrate proficiency on those tests. And so it's just another opportunity for us to close that graduation gap by encouraging those kids to take it seriously and pass that test. Plus, we want to compete because our mission is by 2030 to be a premier school district in this state of Oregon. And in order to do that, our scores have to reflect competitive numbers.
Thank you.
Great question. Sorry for the length in that answer. It's a great one.
It's a big question.
Any other questions for Superintendent Carpenter? All right. Thank you for your report.
Please, for the notes, mark that Director Shibahara would like some air conditioning in these schools.
All right, on to F, reports and presentations. So we have the Oregon English Language Learner State Report. Mr. Scott Sullivan and Leah Rydell. Or just Leah Rydell.
Board directors, Superintendent Carpenter, thank you for having me this evening. I do not have a visual slide presentation for you this evening because this is actually an Oregon Department of Education official state English learner annual report. And as we were just discussing, because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the suspension of annual state testing the past couple of years, I don't have a lot of data to share from their report. So I'll get a little bit more into what I can share. But just to start off, this report, the purpose that the Oregon Department of Education puts this report together is to share and describe the population of English learners around the state, as well as to provide a summary on progress on how around the state we are meeting the needs of those students. ODE asks each district to then take that report and share it with their local school board, as well as we have it linked on our district website, and there are print copies available upon request at the district office as well if you'd like to look through the whole report. It's also linked on the ODE website. This current state English learner annual report was published in June of 21 for the 2019-2020 school year. That was the first year the pandemic started. We did not have state academic testing or English language proficiency testing, so there's not a lot of data to share. However, I can share some demographic data about the representation of languages around the state. And primarily, English learners represented around roughly 160 different languages around the state of Oregon, with Spanish being the highest represented home language throughout the state. Here in couple other common languages, most common languages are Russian, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Arabic around the state of Oregon. Here in Estacada, similarly, our highest represented language among our currently served English language learners is also Spanish, as well as among our former English learners who have exited our program. English learners, the state describes as students who receive services as part of an English language development program. So they come to school, they receive all of their regular core academic programming, and they also receive supplemental English language development support as part of their core learning. Okay. A couple, just really quick, because again, there's not a lot of data to share. This report is over and over and over full of, due to the ongoing pandemic and the suspension of state testing, we just don't have data to show. However, I can share with you a couple local wins that we have going on for us right now. Our on-time 4-year graduation cohort for our English learners is increasing, along with the state of Oregon is increasing. For the 4-year graduation rate for this group was 75% in 2018 and 79% in 2019 here in Estacada. And for all students, so including the group of served English learners as well as students who were never identified as English learners that year in the state of Oregon, that rate was 80%. So we are not closed the gap. We have not closed the gap yet, but we are approaching closing of that gap, which is a very exciting thing. And yes, over the years of providing English language development service, in the past several years, we are seeing significant increases in graduation rate, which is really exciting. Another win for us locally is 3 years ago here in Estacada High School, we started honoring students with the Oregon Seal of Biliteracy. And this is a prestigious award that recognizes cognitive, academic, and potential economic benefits of bilingualism. And any student can earn this award by meeting all graduation requirements, demonstrating proficiency in English, and demonstrating proficiency in a partner language by taking a state-approved language assessment. We have currently awarded 17 students, graduating seniors, with the Oregon State Seal of Biliteracy here in Estacada, which is really exciting because this is also part of our one of our student success goals in our strategic plan as part of our increasing language proficiency area of our student success goals. And our initial goal for the year 2024, our sort of stepping stone to get to 2030, is that we would hope to have awarded 15, and we have already awarded 17 as of June 2021. So it's very exciting. Our families and students are asking about this. They want more information. Any student can earn this by demonstrating multilingual proficiency. We have also had boys and girls earn this award. So it's a very exciting step for us as a district to be participating along with the state. And then just lastly, a couple things that we're continuing to work on and address for the English learners in our district are on track to English proficiency. So ensuring that our students are learning English at a rate that is appropriate and that we would expect them, so that they can also maintain and keep up with core academic learning. And then ninth grade on track. And we are monitoring how our ninth grader English learners are doing and continuing to think about what can we do to support them to be on track for graduation as well. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of data available right now, but we do think that these focus areas will continue to support these students long-term toward academic success.
All right. Any questions?
We have one.
Yes.
The biliteracy, the CELO biliteracy, how many of our 17 were never English learners?
I can answer that. We had one student who was a never English learner.
Oh, wow.
This is a student who is multilingual and is a member of a multilingual family. Yes.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Out of our school district, do we have percentages of how many of those students are at elementary level versus middle and high school?
We do. I don't have all the percentages with me. I can get that for you. But I can tell you that our largest percent are at the elementary level. We have roughly very similar percentages of students who are eligible, currently served English learners at the middle and high school. And that is common among school districts. Most students come in to a district or as they enroll in school with a primary language other than English at home. They begin going to school in English or in other areas in another language, but in an English-speaking school. Over the course of elementary school, they become more proficient in English as part of service and as part of participating in the local community and socializing with students. So we often see students start to exit frequently around the middle school age, though some certainly do continue on into high school and exit hopefully at that point and potentially graduate still as a currently served English learner, which is fine.
And that was going to be my second question. It's like, who qualifies and who determines that, and at what point?
Yes. So eligibility is determined upon initial enrollment into school, and it is based on the language use survey that every family fills out for every child enrolling in school. So this is information the family gives us about language use in their home is how they become eligible. And then from there, there's assessments that happen and that determine whether the child is proficient in English at that point or not. But it's based on language information that's from the family.
And the only reason I'm just, throwing questions is because I myself have experience where my kids were early on in a program that they were kind of like obligated to be in. It's like, they're bilingual,
Yes.
right? And there are some assumptions. Yeah, we speak Spanish. That's our first language, but we're bilingual. And it's like, I hear that other parents have that complaint as well. And it's like, at what time, what is the process to making sure that parents understand at what point they could exit the program and who do they contact and make it very clear? Just because they speak Spanish at home doesn't mean that they're not English proficient kind of thing. So
Absolutely. And I was actually going to speak to that a little earlier, that many students are multilingual who enter school. Some of them become eligible for English language development service. Some of them initially demonstrate English proficiency and are never eligible or served as an English learner in an English language development program. So there, yes, I agree with you. The state, I don't know how long of an answer you want me to give you. I'd be happy to reconnect with you at
We
some
could
point.
reconnect.
The
but, you
short
know,
answer
it's-
is the state has recognized that and is acknowledging that, and over the past 2 years has developed a new language use survey that addresses some of those concerns, so that there's less of the, well, maybe not, what is the language, is there a language, and it's a little bit more clear. So I would be happy to follow up with you anytime about that.
If I could just add, the home language survey triggers like some compliance things. And those compliance things have to be followed up, and there has to be a process for that. So that's a lot of the reasons why, at least in some of the states I work in, that's what happens. And the parents give us the same feedback. Like, we speak 3 languages in our home, and English is one of them.
That's it. Yeah, you're exactly right, Director Johnston. And the overall purpose is to under Title III, which is our English learners program under ESEA, and the purpose is to ensure that students have adequate access to learning. And in order to have access to core content learning in any of the core subject areas that are taught in English, a student has to have access to know and learn English. And so the purpose is really coming from a good place to ensure that each child has the opportunity to learn the language of instruction because they are simultaneously learning the content in school. And there can be some questions certainly that come from that, and I'd be happy to talk with you about that anytime.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Assessment will tell us where their level is. And so they have achieved what the state has identified in this assessment. So it's not just we keep their have assessments that are
Sorry.
norm.
Absolutely. And a parent can at any time waive service as well, annually, yes.
Any other questions?
Is it seen as an accolade to exit the program? And are school districts graded on that, on the effectiveness of the program and how long it takes students to, I don't want to say cycle through it, but in essence, cycle through it and
Yeah.
get and graduate from that particular program?
The on track to English language proficiency is a measure, is a criteria measure on the school report card. It is paused at the moment because we're not giving the annual state assessment that gives us the measures, that gives us the data to make those determinations on where a district is. But yes, in essence, there is a rough expectation of a time that it should take for a student to acquire English language proficiency. However, because we're talking about individual learning, there's a lot of leeway on the sides of that. But yes, to get right to your answer, there is a measure for that. It's on track to English proficiency, which is one of the things that I was also sharing, that is something that we are continuing to focus on and monitor here, even in the absence of specific data from the state at this time.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to quickly point out, though, that in my 10 years here, ELL, Title III, some of those things has often been neglected in this school district. And I'm just really pleased over the last 3 years that we have really made an intentional investment in resources to support these kids as they begin their educational journey in the Estacada School District. And so the data is just now starting to come in. We've just now started to make adjustments based on the data. And I just want to credit you, Leah, and your team as we build stronger relationships with our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item G, discussion. I don't see anything listed.
Can I throw two dates out?
What do you want to, oh, that's right. You did say
Yeah.
we can talk about that in
Could
discussion.
we talk about that during discussion since, what about, I'm just throwing two dates, like the first Saturday of October, like October 2nd or October 16th?
Saturdays, I'm out coaching
Hunting?
football.
You're in a special time of year there.
I know, hunting time.
Mine's not hunting, but Saturdays between Labor Day and the end of November, I'm coaching.
If I had to pick one, it would be the 16th. But
What, do we have any proposals of how to find time? Or what day of the week, or, I mean, most of us work.
Monday
How
nights
about a
between 1 and 3
how about a
a.m.
Sunday evening or
Or
afternoon?
afternoon?
Can make that.
Are people comfortable on us for a
I
Sunday?
think Denise could probably nail us down.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just trying to narrow it down so we could actually get to something sooner than later.
gotta do
So
it.
I would prefer
Yep.
not to wait till November. I would
Yep.
like to get it done before.
We gotta do it.
October.
I like it.
Okay, so a Sunday afternoon,
The 10th of October.
essentially. So throw out a couple Sunday afternoons, so throw out the 10th.
Perfect.
That was
Thank you.
it.
Thank you
Thanks.
for bringing that back as I was moving through the discussion.
Nice try. Chair.
I want to have the meetings. All right. Item H, hearing of citizens for action items. None. All right, moving right along. Action items, the consent agenda includes a package of one or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of one or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote. So, number one, consent agenda.
Chair Wheeler, I move to accept the consent agenda. as presented.
Chair Rydell.
Oh, I'm on autopilot. Chair Rydell, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented. Give it a couple months.
I smell a coup coming on here.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Just the bus drivers, there's 3 positions, and they're, each one of them is .625 FTE?
Correct, yep.
That was it, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item J, to authorize the Estacada School District to make a payment over $50,000 to PACE in the amount of $343,620 for property and casualty coverage for the 2021-2022 school year.
Chair Rydell, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to make a payment of over $50,000 to PACE in the amount of $343,000, or $343,620 for property and casualty coverage for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I'm sure there's some discussion, so do you guys want to take it first and then we can ask questions?
The only question I've got is, have we gotten other bids?
That is a great question. And I just want to talk a little bit about what PACE is and how it becomes and why we are not going out for other bids on that. PACE is made up of, it started way back. It's a portion of OSBA and yes, and SDAO, the Special Districts Association. Both of those combined to build this PACE. And what it is it is a unique board. PACE offers unequal price and coverage options to its members. Unlike any other insurance company whose profits are distributed to shareholders, PACE's only objective is to provide reasonable rates and comprehensive coverage to participating entities. PACE's size and strength help negotiate the most competitive deals for its insurers. And it insures majority of the school districts in Oregon besides the 3 biggest school districts, which have the money to go out and do their own insurance pricing. So that is why we haven't done a bid. We're not required to do a bid based upon this information. And honestly, we couldn't afford we couldn't go anywhere else and get these prices for what they give us. They do specialize in school districts and do meet our needs, and so that is something that is very helpful working with them. That was majority of my discussion, so thank you for starting that for me.
Yeah, another example of this out in the other parts of the world is within the credit union world, you have QSOs, so where multiple credit unions band together and then they create something that then those credit unions buy the services for. So it's intended and really created to support the people that use it, not intended to create a business model and then sell it to people. So that's that kind of that PACE model as well as you were describing. But it's just another
Exactly.
example of where it exists
It's a,
outside of the school area.
it's a co-op that they've developed for local governments.
So is there like a formula of some sort that based on your district size and needs and things like that, that's what your total coverage cost
Correct.
is? And so someplace like a Sandy or a Colton or others would have similar rates, but the total may be different because of their needs?
Correct, exactly. And in the board packet, I did attach the invoice, so you could see how that is broken down.
Great. Thank you for the questions. Any more questions?
Just with all the cyber criminal activity, I don't see any cybersecurity on that quote.
It was there.
It is there. It is there. And they do trainings for us too on our
On the invoice,
cybersecurity
it says no quote,
Coverage. It says no coverage
no coverage.
coverage.
on the
Yeah.
invoice.
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay. It's just a quick point, just with all the security
Good heads
issues.
up. Yep.
It might be bundled under a different section, so I'll get more information on that.
And I do have a follow-up question, and that's on the property, the 212, 614, that's our coverage for any property damage to any of our buildings? Or what is that?
I think that's just a
It's our
premium.
premium for all of our property each year.
Oh, okay.
So that's not the value of.
Okay,
That's
I
just-
read it
That's
wrong.
just the
Okay, I get
payment
it.
for.
Our values.
Where is our value? Do we know what that coverage amount is?
The value's not on the invoice. I don't have that in front of me.
But I'm assuming it's in the policy somewhere, and we're good on coverage.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they do, they come and they walk our district and we go line by line through everything. I work with Director Ware and we go through everything line by line. Any new purchases get put on there. Yes, everything's covered.
Do we do like a building value or a building replacement value? Here with fire once.
Great, I think I would have to look into it, but I think it's building and replacement. But I would look into
The next board meeting, we'll get back to you. These are good questions, and we could all learn a little bit more about what we're investing into.
Thank you.
So I guess with
So,
these questions.
If we go to approve this, I actually want to make sure cyber's covered in this approval.
So I guess my question would be, is there anything from a coverage standpoint that precludes us from voting on this in the next meeting?
Yes, I do need to get the invoice paid. It is coming due prior to our next board meeting. I think you see the date on there. It's
September 1st, it's due.
Yeah.
No later than September 1st.
Okay,
Did we approve it with an action to go track down cyber?
I think so.
We can definitely come back to you. You do have a couple choices, and our apologies for being less prepared for great questions. But your choices would be to approve this, and we'll come back to you with what we got. And if we need to come back and add a cyber, if it for some reason is not there, then obviously we'll attach that. Or you can choose to vote it down, and we can have a special session prior to where we can get you the information you need so that you can make a more informed vote.
Okay,
I would suggest that we approve contingent that they're added. That way we could pay that bill at least.
yep. And we do not want to risk not having,
Coverage, especially right now.
so.
Well, could we approve it on a contingency that we get the information prior to the check going out?
Right, I could do that. I can give the information to the superintendent to share with board chair and
Okay.
vice chair prior to the check going out.
Just to make this super clear, when's a reasonable amount of time to get that? Because I'd like that in there as well.
I will email them tomorrow morning, and I probably will have a response tomorrow.
But if we said no later than next Friday,
Yes.
is that cool? That gives still enough time to get the check out and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. But to your point, Director Walper, it would be, I get that we need to approve from a timing because we can't go without insurance, and I feel confident that Pace is providing what they want, but let's verify it before we cut out a check and then have to scramble. So, so do we need to make a new motion, I would assume, right?
No, I think you can make the motion and do what you're
Okay.
doing.
So let the record show that within this motion,
Yes.
if it is approved, prior to payment being made to Pace, we have requested to see the details around cybersecurity coverage. Was there another one?
Yes,
And
there was another
Replacement
one.
versus
And
value.
replacement, value and replacement cost versus just value on the premium.
You want the value that our district is at, or you want to know if our buildings are going to be valued and replaced if something were to happen?
My question specifically is just, is it written that I don't need to value the building? I
Okay,
just wanna
great.
know,
I'm just making sure.
Yep,
are we
burns
getting
down.
replacement?
right.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for the questions.
Great questions.
Okay,
Chair Riddell, I move to authorize Escada School District to make payment over $50,000 to Pace in the amount of $342,620 for property and casualty coverage for the 21-22 school year.
I think we're already there.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, you're good. Okay, so we had a,
Seconded it anyway.
we had a motion.
I
we
was
had
just
a s-
practicing.
You did a great job. So we had, I'm just happy you said my name and not Ben's. So we had a motion, we had a second, we had an adjustment. So I think we're all good. Any other discussion that's needed? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item K, to approve the Shetke Bus and Van Sales proposal to purchase one new 20-passenger Thomas bus for the Estacada School District transportation fleet. You might as well just come down now.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the Shetke Bus and Van Sales proposal to purchase one new 20-passenger Thomas bus for the Estacada School District.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Ware?
Sir.
Anything you want to add before the questions start flying?
No, I'll just start
Okay.
getting into questions.
So it's been moved and seconded. Questions, discussion?
I'm sure we did an analysis on what we need and why we need it.
Yes, sir.
Is that available? Can we see that?
It's not in a report form, but we can provide that in a report form. I can get that to Superintendent. We did do an analysis. Our transportation coordinator is very knowledgeable of what we have in our fleet. We've been fortunate as a district to be able to allocate certain funds each year to purchase new buses to attack the, attack's not the right word, but to address the new law coming into place in 2025. So we've purchased 78 passengers, 88 passengers the last few years. This is a need because our current smaller bus that carries ADA accessible wheelchairs and students is near its end of life cycle. It would cost more to upgrade it and repair it than it is to, over time, purchase a new one.
And I think in addition to that, without a 20-passenger, we're oftentimes taking a larger vehicle than we need, which then also increases cost, increases wear on a larger, more expensive vehicle as well, if I'm correct.
That is correct, yes.
Understand that correctly. This is probably a good opportunity to share with Director Welper, but this is also a great opportunity to refresh too, that all purchases regarding transportation are reimbursed at 70% by the federal government, and they depreciate over 10 years. And so prior to my coming on board and several school board members coming on as school board members, we had a very aged and archaic bus fleet. It was very out of repair. Even the diesel mechanic who worked for us at the time said that they would not let their children ride on our school buses about 7 years ago. And so when we, came to the board and when I was asked to become the superintendent, we made that one of our top priorities, is to revamp our transportation fleet so that it was safe for kids in these very treacherous, in times, country roads. And so over the course of the last 4 years, we've purchased 2 huge buses to replace that aging fleet over time. We've accomplished that now, and so it's time for us to replace our special education fleet. These are the ones that lift wheelchairs and support our students who have different physical needs on the transportation. And so it's now time to start replacing those, because we have never touched those, I don't think, in 10 or 15 years. So we're in a spot where we can afford to do so, and we feel like it's our obligation to make sure that our fleet is running safe and sound, and this is our opportunity to do that.
I think that's great. I really do. But I'd like to see something. You know, I'm the new guy on the block, and I don't want to overstep my bounds, but, anybody can say anything. And I would just like to see an analysis on a purchase like that. That's a high dollar value.
Provide that.
And I believe you 100%, don't get me wrong. I'd just like to see something in writing.
Thank you.
Dating back, what, 6 or 7 years ago, was it Donna, the former finance director? Was she the one that drafted that bus plan to get us to the bus, or was that Nick?
It was Nick.
So Nick Hogan, the former finance director, had put together a schedule of what we had and how long it was going to take to get the buses we just talked about, that we had payments on, off of the books, and then a plan to buy 1 or 2 buses. And I think as we got closer to 2025, it might have had to been 3 buses a year. But it's all laid out somewhere. I know there's a document.
We have plenty of documents we can very easily provide to you.
And it has its mileage and age of buses and how they're used and all those different things. And so I think you'll be confident once you see that document that everything.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm confident now, but I'm coming from a place where when you do a capital expenditure, you do an analysis on it and justify this expenditure. So that's all I want to see.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Chair Rydell, I want to add that 70% that he was talking about, that's part of our state school fund that we saw. That's part of our formula that comes in is the state, the 70% throughout the previous years that we're getting paid on.
Got it. It's a great tie back.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on item K?
What is the timeframe of the need to purchase this bus by, and is it for this upcoming school year?
That is a good question, and I've asked that question, and I had the answer, and it's escaping me, so I'll have to get back to you and give it to Superintendent Carpenter.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, please raise your right hand. On to item L. Are you guys okay if I don't read item L and just say item L and then whoever's moving it, read the whole thing? Is everybody cool with that? Okay, great. Item L.
The only problem with that is the people that are viewing this probably don't know what item L is.
But the person who makes the motion reads that same item L.
Okay.
So
And
if
then
I
this
read
is
it,
publicly
yeah.
Yeah.
But great point. But yeah, I'm reading it and then somebody else is reading it right after me. So we can probably save. Nobody wants to listen to me talk that much.
True.
So can I get a motion on item L?
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the RFP for 2021-3 access control with Sonitro Pacific for the amount of $152,244.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Thanks for hanging tight, Mike. Questions? Or if you wanted to add?
We went over this extensively in our pillar meeting last week, and Mike or Superintendent Carpenter can add, but this is part of changing a service provider, and I spent a lot of time asking them about compatibility, software, hardware, firmware, why we're switching to a different provider. And so I was hoping you're going to touch on all that, right?
I can,
So-
yes, I can.
And, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so when we started this, the initial goal there's 2 main goals on this, is improving our access, obviously, our safety within our other district or other buildings. But also we had a accessibility issue with our current provider. We have to go to provider manager and say, we need to get a new card, or we need to change a door schedule, which tends to take some time and is not efficient and creates barriers for certain stakeholders or leaders, even down to the permissions level. The system that we are using is a bit dated as well. So our initiative, our main purpose and goal is to address that issue and at the same time improve the safety, knowing that this is a big item that the district has been wanting to tackle for a number of years. Sonitro Pacific offers those services. They offer a cloud-based application that gives us pretty much 100% access on whatever we want to do to our system. They are also very responsive to us reaching out through their data center when we want changes is made as well. But they have a cloud-based system allowing us to, again, make changes on a moment's notice, issue an access card really quickly and making those adjustments when needed, which is very, very, very important to us because we have a number of stakeholders, whether it's from our employees, youth, or others that need access, and when they don't have that access, that creates barriers and challenges for us. Software that we're using taking it over is a very easy process at the high school and the district office. So that actually is not a very complicated process. And so that is an easy integration. We also requested to have the software to be able to expand. So right now we're just looking at access control, where it just controls our doors. But in the future, we may want to look at intrusion, and we have video cameras, but can we get it all onto one system controlled by one entity instead of 3 different entities, allowing us to be more aware of what our services are and being able to make adjustments easier.
Gotcha.
This also, when we talk about strategic planning, this access control has been on our strategic plan, it's been on our bond plan, and it's been on our 5-year deferred maintenance plans the whole time. So once again, this is evidence to our community that regardless of the passage of a bond or not, we continue to chip away at improving our educational facilities. In this case, this is all about safety and making sure that we're protecting our kids. And so I'm pleased that we have the ability financially. I'm pleased that our school board of directors have taken that as a very high priority among the board to make sure we're setting money aside so that we can continue to chip away at the things we all know that we need.
Well, and this is what, replacing the ring of 20 keys or something like that, and the previous employers or coaches having old keys that could access
Yes.
parts of the building and back into the fields, and so this is turning it into an electronic system that we can centrally control.
Yes.
And this is just kind of the next step, is trying to provide a system or a solution that's we can manage and own
And rely on.
and
Currently not able to rely on our system currently very well, unfortunately.
And is this an annual?
That is,
fee?
the cost that you see there is the investment on installation for this at all the other schools, and it's approximately, I don't want to say it wrong, it's obviously the doors that we've listed, and you get the bid packets in your backup. There is a monthly service fee per building based on the number of card readers. That does a number of different things. It has a few different benefits. Obviously, if we have any service needs, which when we look through the contract, we'll make sure that's clear that we don't get charged for that. Any warranty information, any support needed that requires either on-site or virtually is no cost to the district because we pay that service fee.
I think one thing to just keep in mind is before the COVID era, school safety had a different connotation, and it was more of the be able to lock down or lock out the buildings at a moment's notice. And it goes back to the 20 keys on a ring and replacement and bad guys having them and good.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we all have a card in our wallets or our lanyards, and we can get where we need to get, and the teachers can, and certain places are locked down, and it's an up-to-date system that makes sense, and it's nice to see that we're taking the next step to hopefully complete the ring. And
the return on investment would be there. Each one of these keys costs the district $75. So you multiply that by the amount of employees, coaches, volunteers, losing them, replacing them. It's going to end up paying for itself.
And just because we're giving some more historical data here, the other really great part about this is it also tracks who's accessing. So if it's just keys, we don't know who opened the door. But with key card access, we can not only turn off and on access at any point in time, but if there is an issue, we know whose card was swiped. So if there is some issues that we need to follow up on, makes it very, very easy to do that, which is exciting. And also when we but rent out our facilities to different vendors, we're not giving them 5 $75 keys. We are giving them 5 key cards, which is substantially less money. So it is, in the long run, a huge cost-benefit analysis.
I'd just like to add the co-curricular activity like you were mentioning there, but also theater and the use of our gyms and events for that. We can program for doors to be opened and allowing that access. Right now, propping doors open is just not the way we should be doing business for many, many reasons, safety and just for welcoming our community. So that's also another advantage that we're.
Card readers, like so maybe for the high school, is that circuit going to be part of like the mission critical system that's on the generator? Or do they have in the card reader like a backup battery that'll go a couple days?
They do supply them with these pretty large backup batteries that last for about 4 to 5 hours for a major, like a blackout. But we want to integrate it into our generator as well.
That was going to be my question, making sure that we have a backup plan if we don't have any power, because that tends to happen.
It does, and that's
Right,
when that
so-
generator comes into play for sure.
Don't get rid of those.
There's always going to be at
keys.
least one person with
Keep
a
some
ring of
backup.
keys.
We will. We will.
Walking around no papers.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Mike. So all in favor of item L, please raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item M.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve contract service of the occupational therapist Natalie Shad for $90 per hour and not to exceed $70,000 per year.
It's been moved,
Second.
seconded.
Just very quickly, it's very difficult to find special education specialists. Occupational therapy is a very unique need, and they are not producing enough occupational therapists for the amount of positions that are open. Therefore, our inability to hire our own occupational therapists, we are subcontracting to a third party to make sure that we comply with all federally mandated IDEA special education laws for those students that need it. What this is.
Great, thank you, Ryan.
So we utilize this individual on an hourly basis?
That's correct. Yep. Although the benefit of this is we have no benefits, PERS, and other
Right,
costs and
right.
tons of that. Yep.
I hope we're not giving PERS to a subcontractor.
No, sir. Yep.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Any other discussion or comments, questions? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item N. Item N. Can I get a motion? It's a long paragraph, so.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve Resolution 2022-3 declaring a need for local control and masking and demand for guidance on enforcement and need to align school guidance with the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention and authorize necessary actions in connection therewith.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I guess, Ryan, do you have something you want to kick this off with, or are we just going to go to questions? I think everybody's had an opportunity to read the declaration, give feedback. So I guess I could start with, and in Superintendent Carpenter's superintendent report, right? It is, this is one thing that we can do to say, we get it, we got to follow the laws. We want you to change that so that we have the opportunity to make local decisions. And I think that has been echoed by our community. And so this is the step that we can take as an executive board to declare that we want this to happen. So joining other school districts, obviously, around the state and doing that. So again, very excited that we're able to take this step and declare what we want to have happen from a school district standpoint. And when it comes to laws, that's what we can do, is declare that we want them adjusted so that we can make that decision. So excited that as a board, we were able to come together with this and get this ready to go.
Personally, I would like to commend you on that. I think it was very well written. Very well written.
Thank you.
The second bullet, I think, is important. You talked about the 700 plus emails. I forgot the number.
Yeah.
But, recognizing significant number of parent choice coupled with people advocating that we should have
Yeah.
masks on. I think that's, important for us to make sure that we've heard that from our community.
And to take that one step further, sorry to jump back in, but this is not a declaration to not have masks required in schools. This is a declaration to say that that decision should be made at the local level, that's what we're declaring. So we are not saying yes or no. We are saying it should be our decision to make, not a statewide decision to be made from somebody who has no connection to our community.
Yes, and I definitely strongly believe in this declaration and want to represent our community and feel that, like you said, Estacada is unique, and we, should be given the right to make that choice locally, whether it is to mask or not. I mean, again, I feel like we were ready. With that mandate originally from the state, and I felt really proud of our community for coming together and coming up with a plan, and I'm disappointed that that choice was taken from us, and I hope that our voice and other districts' voice will be heard.
Thank you. Any other discussion? One question I did have is will this declaration be available for viewing by the community anywhere?
Yes, we'll post it on the school board's website. I'm sure that we'll also, it will most likely be reported in the local news media, and I imagine in social media as well. And then if this passes, this resolution passes, then we'll have, you and I will have some responsibilities in how we send this to elected officials of authority.
Great, thank you. Okay. I think we've had the discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Item P. I don't need a motion for this one.
Oh, you missed O.
Oh, crap.
Crossed.
That was so close, man.
Skipped.
Can't skip things.
That's
Larry.
twice I messed it up tonight. Item O, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
None.
Okay. Item P, I don't need a motion for this one. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and thanks for all who attended digitally tonight. We appreciate the support.